Hi everyone, this is Animesh. In today's episode, we have Pradip Pandey with us. So Pradip is my batchmate from PGP-Finance, and he recently interned with PWC US for the private equity. So let's hear it out from Pradip himself. Pradip, could you tell us more about the company and the project domain and scope?
Okay, so about the company, as in PWC is a big four company which offers two sort of services. One is assurance and another is consulting. So in consulting as well, there is country side consulting and there is US side consulting. So PWC India offers you roles on campus that are on Indian side. You'll work on Indian clients. So PWC US basically would be the opposite of it, where the clients would be US. And in private equity value creation, what you do is your clients are basically private equities throughout the globe, which would be your Carlyle's and KKRs of the world, and they would have portfolio companies. So we would delve into portfolio companies a little further.
Moving on to the role offered, what was the role? How was the internship experience all about? Was it hybrid? Where did you get your location?
Okay, so it was offered in Bangalore. The role was called private equity value creation, and it was sort of live for us because 2 years down the line, they wanted to just experiment with the interns whether the work from office is going good or not. So for us, it was all live. But in between, if your project team members are not in Bangalore, you could work from home as well. So mostly it was from office.
Okay. And typically, how much hours did you spend? And how did a typical day look like?
Okay, so I think consulting jobs are basically very tiresome. So apart from trainings, I'm sort of indulged in project activities which would run into 12, 13 hours. But there were weeks when I would have worked for 8, 9 hours as well. So on an average, when the project is going out, you work for 12, 13 hours. And when it is not going out, you sort of get off early.
Okay. Now let's move on to a different section. So let's talk about your project. If you can share details about your project, maybe in very simple terms, so that viewers can understand.
Right.
Feel free to use any language of your choice.
Okay. So there are private companies, okay, and they invest in private companies. So that is why they are called private equity, right? So and then there are the companies they invest in are called portfolio companies. Now, once I've invested in those portfolio companies, those are sort of owned by the private equities, and they would want those functioning companies to function as appropriately or as efficiently as it could. So in deal space, what happens is there are times when you need to due diligence companies as to whether that company is a good fit or not for your investment. So that's called investment selection criteria, and based on that you would invest. So for example, there is a company called KKR. Whether they want to invest in Cashify or not, that's called investment selection criteria. Once I have decided that I should invest in this and this looks like a good prospect, I would go on and do due diligence about their commercial operations and other operations as well. So if you just look at the PL of a particular portfolio company, there are like two parts basically: revenue and cost of goods sold, or cost maybe. So the revenue enhancement part is called revenue synergies, which are like basically commercial due diligence, where the companies like PWC come in and create values in the revenue side. And the second is cost of goods sold and SG&A, which is basically the cost reduction part of it. So where if there is a procurement function, if there is a supply chain function, can I reduce cost certainly? So for example, in supply chain, there is a function called logistics, inbound and outbound logistics. So the company, so PwC might suggest that your network is not that great. So you enhance your network and you optimize your route, and in these ways you can reduce your cost. In like very simple term, two things: due diligence, which might be commercial and operational, and third is implementation of those suggestions that we have given in the company on ground.
Okay, understood. Okay, so moving forward, could you describe your experience in, let's say, 3 words?
Okay, first would be sort of exciting, because working from office is an experience and it was sort of exciting. Second would be very insightful, because the deal space is very dynamic and you get to learn about mergers, divestitures, etc. So that way it was very dynamic. And third would be delightful as well. So overall 2 months experience was very good. There are two parts, obviously, behavioral side and technical side. On technical side, I felt it was sort of making me learn new things, and on behavioral side, people are amazing. I mean, it can't get as better as PwC, or it is as good as any company in the world. So that way, it was a very good experience.
And did you by any chance find out more about the career trajectory? If you get to join as a full-time employee, how does it look like?
Right.
What are the exit options?
Right. So there's an interesting aspect. So the PVC team functions within the umbrella of strategy and. So if you Google about strategy, and you would know that it is the one of the most competing consulting firms, and it competes with Bain, BCG, and McKinsey in US. So in US, all our partners were from strategy, and people who are working here are under PWC umbrella, because strategy and is owned by PWC. So now you have two options to mobilize yourself or have mobility. Internally, you can get mobility into US teams, which is strategy and itself. And most of our partners who are Indians, who have gone from here, or who are Indians sponsoring Indian Bangalore sort of company. And second would be, I have seen in my experiences that people move to Accenture strategy, people move to Kearney, and people move to Alvarez and Marshall, most likely these spaces, and in the deal consulting space like M&A and divestiture. So generally the upside is going to these consulting firms, and then some people have the profile to get into MBB, they also get into MBB as well.
Okay, so Pradeep, so you talked about all the good points about your experiences, but summers are generally random and you do not end up at your target firm. So did PwC happen to you by chance, or it was one of your targeted companies? And if given a full-time opportunity, what would your decision be?
Okay, so I would divide that answer into two parts. So I'm a CA, and CAs generally have two aspirations when they get into MBA. So one is the group which wants to go into consulting, and second is the one who wants to stick to co-finance. And as long as PwC is concerned, it sort of just happened to me, because I had like a higher experience in the summers process. So it sort of happened to me, and I wanted to get into finance roles. The roles that are offered on campus favor more people who are like lesser experienced. So that happened, and so if you want to stick to consulting, you should definitely look out for this role, and one would definitely learn about the mergers and private equity space a lot in this firm, and it becomes a niche area for you to grow. But as long as I am concerned, I'm looking for finance roles which are front end and core. So I would go on and have a try at finals as well.
Fair rationale for that. So if you had one recommendation that you would want to give to the upcoming batches?
Right. So technical skills would be just two. So learn Excel very nicely and PPT. That would be sufficient. Excel and PPT are like bread and butter for every job that is offered. And if you want to learn about certain visualization skills like Tableau or Power BI, you can like just look at them. That would work. But apart from technical, behaviorally, your communication should be very solid in a firm that is US based.
I've taken a couple of interviews, and this usage of tool like Tableau and Power BI, that has always come up from people sharing their experiences. So I think even the curriculum can be designed to some extent, inculcating these aspects in the MBA curriculum, because these are sort of coming in the trend, and that would help also the recruiters to get the quality that they are needing from the employee base.
Right. Completely agree. Yeah.
I think that pretty much sums up our interview for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we'll be pinning down Pradeep's LinkedIn profile in the description. So feel free to reach out to him if you have any queries.
Thank you. Feel free to reach out.